Good afternoon. My name is Vishal Shah. Today I'm just going to start my presentation. I have selected the paper Cross-Mini App Request Forgery, Root Causes Attacks, and Vulnerability Detection. My ID is 40256931. I have presented my paper to Kaggle Farm. Here I have started from the abstract and introduction. Here I have pointed out 6 points. Mini apps and communication, CMRF attacks, understanding the vulnerability, CMRF scanner and popularity vulnerability, introduction to mini app paradigm, advantages and distribution, importance of cross communication. So, the mini maps and communication. Mini apps are full-fledged apps executed within mobile super apps like WeChat or Snapchat. They use a unique global app ID assigned by the super app to navigate between mini apps. And CMRF attacks understanding the vulnerability. So when they find the missing checks of the sender's app ID in a receiver man mini app, that can lead to cross mini app request forgery. That means CMRF attacks. For the root causes, if it is lack of sender's app ID validation in receiver mini apps, then they can also get attacked. Third, the CMRF scanner and popularity vulnerability. The CMRF scanner can detect the CMRF vulnerability in mini apps and has identified a significant number of WeChat and Baidu mini apps. That lack of app ID checks potentially leading to security consequences such as data access, information leakages, and promotion abuse. For the fourth, introduction to mini app paradigm. There is a rapid increase of evolution of mini apps within super apps like WeChat, Baidu, TikTok, and Snapchat. They are really easy to access, installation free, and a wide range of daily life services, along with the merit of daily life service ranging from ride hailing to online shopping, and the mini app paradigm has rapidly gained momentum among others users, bringing a huge amount of opportunities for both super app vendors and third-party vendors. Moreover, it has a huge user base, around 1.29 billion monthly active users for many apps. For the advantages and distribution, many apps have limited functionalities compared to native apps due to size limitation. Super apps like WeChat have implemented a communication mechanism similar to Android intent to allow mini apps to redirect to other mini apps. Security measures are needed to protect privacy-sensitive data during cross communication. The mandatory HTTPS protocol is enforced for many apps to communicate with their their backends, but front-end secure communication lacks integrity checks. The responsibility of the checking message authenticity and integrity lies with the mini apps, not the super app. Missing checks of the sender mini app's identity can lead to cross mini app request forgery, that means CMRF attacks, resulting in security breaches. Uh, The CMRF scanner is a static analysis tool developed to detect the vulnerability in mini apps. A large number of mini app developers are not aware of CMRF attacks. As shown by the evolution of WeChat and Baidu mini apps, the vulnerabilities can have direct security consequences, such as privileged data access and information leakages. 7. The contribution of the paper. In this paper, they try to implement their contribution of the study, including identifying the CMRF attacks and developing the CMRF scanner for efficient detection and conducting a empirical evaluation of vulnerable mini apps. Now moving to the background. In the background, I have pointed 6 points in here. resource management in mini-apps. Second, cross mini-app communication. Third, request creation and sending. Four, channel establishment. Five, request receiving. Six, importance of secure communications. So now for the resource management in mini-apps, here that describe how APIs, super apps grant mini-apps access to resources like location and Bluetooth. The protection of the super app can be classified into permission-based, isolation-based, allow list-based, and vetting-based. Front-end resources of the super app can be protected by permission mechanism and isolation mechanism provided by the OS. Backend resources of the super app are protected by verifying the authenticity and permission of developer and using allow list. 2. Cross mini-app communication. Mini-apps within the super app can communicate with each other through cross mini-app request, example like WeChat's app ID, Baidu's app key. The cross mini-app communication involves three stages: request creation and sending, channel establishment and request receiving. Detail also we can show the detail in the next page like this. Here I have attached a picture. You can see like if they have made the the structure how they communicate with the cross mini apps. Here you can see the back end, the front end, the under the sender mini app, and also the receiver mini app, front end mini app, back end, how they are communicating with the API. So this is the picture. Now moving to the third, request creation and sending. The sender mini app creates a request using communication APIs. Moreover, parameters include receiver's mini app ID, path URL, and request data format, example JSON object for data transfer. WeChat uses the mini app ID to identify the receiver mini app in cross mini app communication. The communication API in WeChat has parameters for the receiver's mini app ID, the path URL, and the request. Channel establishment. To establish the channel, the host app notified of communication request so that the runtime, stack management, and shared memory creation for intermini app can communicate. Request receiving. After that, to request the receiver mini app launches and fetches the request via callback function. So to ensure the request authenticity and sources, they try to use app IDs to compare between them. Receiver can respond to the sender using cross-mini app communication APIs. Thus, security measures and validation can be checked during cross-mini app communication. As a result, they can prevent of unauthorized requests and ensure expected sender-receiver interaction. Now moving to the CMRF attack. Here I have also pointed 5 points. Overview of CMRF attack, threat model and scope, vulnerability root cause and impact, workflow of CMRF attacks, 5 mitigation strategies. So the overview of CMRF attacks, the cross-mini-app request for the CMRF attacks involves an attacker using malicious mini-app to inject forged requests into a receiver mini-apps without security checks. Second, threat model and scope. The threat model assumes trusted host app code integrity of mini-apps, front-end, trusted backends, trusted communication between front-end and back-end, and a trusted phone. As a result, the CMRF attack can succeed because the attacker can use the malicious mini-app in the development environment without vetting, and WeChat cannot differentiate between the testing and production environments. That is why the attacker can easily go through in this. in this environment. WeChat also cannot guarantee to scrutinize the malicious mini app submitted for vetting as the cross communication is mini app specific and the responsibility to check app IDs lies within the mini app receiver. The focus of the study is on mini app from WeChat and Baidu, as WeChat has a large number of mini apps and a large user base. But on the other hand, Baidu also has a significant number of mini apps. WeChat and Baidu have more mini apps than other vendors like Snapchat. WeChat and Baidu have a cross mini app channel for communication, while other super apps like Kakao and Grab do not have that access. Now moving to the vulnerability, root cause and the impact. The vulnerability in cross-media communication is related to the app ID, which is used to decide the target of the destination mini app. Developers can make mistakes in the checking the app ID and leading to CMRF attacks. Uh, and consideration for impactful vulnerabilities, the receiver mini apps can get also resources access. The attacker can also get the resources access by the receiver mini apps. So this is three things at the vulnerability of this system. First, the workflow of a CMRF attack. So how the CMRF attack actually happens. The first thing is that the CMRF attacks can be impactful if the victim receiver mini apps have access to protected resources. Like IT attacks can be launched by statistically analyzing the request format, for, forging a corresponding request, sorry, for forging a corresponding request and injecting it to trick the receiver media. It can manipulate data or steal sensitive information. The CMRF DM attacks manipulate data by injecting fake requests, such as creating a fake payment mania and sending a success message to the shopping mania. On the other hand, the CMRF DS attack steals sensitive information by injecting fake requests and tricking the receiver mania to send back the information to the attacker. After that, they collect proper information on the topic of the shopping mania, which is vulnerable to CMRF-DM attacks because it does not check the app ID. The shopping mini app is also vulnerable to CMRF-DS attacks because it always receives requests from other mini apps without checking the app ID. Now moving to the mitigation strategies. For the mitigation strategies, the attacker exploits a vulnerability in the receiver mini app to obtain sensitive data such as coupon code that should not be leaked by bypassing the checking process and pretending to be a legitimate sender. The attacker tricks the receiver into sending the sensitive information back to them. This attack can lead to severe security consequences, including the potential for the attacker to track the user's location and steal other sensitive information. So now, uh, I have now moved to the vulnerability detection. So here I have pointed 4 points: objective of the vulnerability detection, second detection process, third detecting use of cross mini app request, and detecting the missing checks. So this section focuses on how the CMRF scanner tool detects and identifies vulnerabilities, specifically the use of cross mini app request and missing app ID checks in mini app, essential in determining the susceptibility to CMRF attack. First of all, the lack of app ID checks is the root causes of the CMRF vulnerability. CMRF Scanner is a JavaScript statistic analysis tool that uses the Abstract Syntax Tree (AST) to scan for the vulnerable mini-apps. CMRF Scanner detects the use of cross-mini-app requests and missing app ID checks. CMRF Scanner tool also a statistic analysis solution using Abstract Syntax Tree to scan for vulnerable mini-apps. Detection process. A vulnerable mini-app using cross-mini-app request is the target of this vulnerability of this detection process. To detect cross-mini-app requests, CMRF Scanner inspects framework-level APIs and their parameters. The use of cross-mini-app requests can be confirmed by matching the string refer info.extradata. CMRF Scanner also identifies the use of requests across assignments and function invocations. Identifying the use of request across assignment involves tracking variables and their assignments. Identifying the use of requests across function invocation involves resolving data flows across caller, callee, and past parameters. The current solution may introduce insufficiency and potential dead loops in the analysis process. So now, detecting using of cross-mini-app request. Once cross-mini-app requests are identified, then the tool looks for missing app ID checks. The app ID started checking involves logical or binary expression where the app ID is involved. On either side of the expression, the detection process involves identifying binary expression and traversing both sides to identify the sender app ID of the conditional batch. There are multiple paths involved. The uses of requests are collected to confirm whether there are missing checks and vulnerable mini-apps are identified. So, thus this, the vulnerability detection is checked. Now, moving to the implementation. So here I have found out 4 key points for the implementation part. They are the proof of concept attack, CMRF scanner implementation, development and source, key modification and additional. The approach involves both attacking vulnerable mini-apps using CMRF strategy and creating a specified tool CMRF scanner to detect and mitigate these vulnerability in mini-apps. The CMRF scanner, derived from the open source XX tool, was tailored to provide in-depth analysis for the CMRF vulnerabilities by understanding the specific characteristic of the app, structure and intersecting. For the proof of concept attack part, the CMRF attack implementation involves reverse engineering victim mini-apps to understand their logic and determine the specific attack to launch. They determine the specific attack type based on the mini-app's vulnerabilities like CMRF-TS or CMRF-TM. Based on that, after they had created a corresponding fake request and inject messages through navigate to mini-app program CMRF-TM, which is called CMRF-TM, or intercept transmitted message CMRF-TS. There is an example. Suppose the shopping mini-app could be targeted for shopping for free, attacked by injecting fake payment status message after reverse engineering the payment status message format. Thus, they have done the proof of concept attack. For the CMRF scanner implementation part, the CMRF scanner tool based on the open source tool XX was implemented for analyzing mini-apps using domain-specific knowledge and complex AST parsing rules. XX was modified to parse JS files in mini-apps and identify function entry, app ID check, and cross-mini-app request data using domain knowledge. Adapted XX for specialized AST parsing and complex rules necessarily for domain-specific analysis in mini-apps. Also customized for identifying function entry points like app ID checks and the use of cross-mini app request data within the code base. Thus, the CMR scanner implementation part is done through this process. Now moving to the evaluation part. So in the evaluation part, the finding, so I have also pointed here 6 points, so 6 key points from here. Data collection, hardware configuration, effectiveness assessment, false positive and negative analysis, insight from vulnerable mini apps, efficiency of CMRF scanner. Sorry. So the findings emphasize the prevalence of CMRF vulnerabilities in various categories of mini apps, indicating the urgency for improved security practices within the development and deployment of this application. The evaluation result of CMS scanner is presented in this section. Mini crawler was used to download like 257,001 and 1490 WeChat mini apps and around 148,000 and 512 Baidu mini apps for testing. To set up the hardware part, they tested the CMRF scanner on 3 Ubuntu, like their version is 18.04 desktop PCs, each running an i7 7th generation CPU with 16 GB memory. So after that, the false positive and negative analysis among the WeChat mini apps, 50,281, around 95.97% failed to perform the checking of the source mini app's app ID. Similarly, among the Baidu mini apps, 493, around 99.80%, do not perform the check. Some developers who have added the checks still have some execution path unprotected, making their mini apps vulnerable. So insight from the vulnerable mini apps, CMF scanner was tested with the mini apps and found no false positive among the detected vulnerable mini apps. 100 identified vulnerable mini apps were manually verified, revealing no false positive. However, 100 non-vulnerable mini apps were checked, exposing two false negative, which are around 2%. So mm, the vulnerable mini apps were analyzed to find correlation between vulnerabilities and app category, app rating, and access resources. Vulnerable mini app majority belong to categories like shopping, lifestyle, and tools. Highly rated mini apps were less likely to be vulnerable, where here they have found that over 55% of vulnerable WeChat mini apps accessed sensitive resources, and they had analyzed sender-receiver relationship for WeChat mini apps. They have also revealed that there are correlation between the vulnerabilities and the categories potential access resources. The efficiency of CMRF scanner, the execution time CRF scanner was quantified by analyzing 52,394 WeChat mini apps and 494 Baidu mini apps, which have taken 9 days for WeChat and less than 12 hours for Baidu, with an average analysis time 48.61 seconds for Tencent and 43.45 seconds for Baidu mini apps. From the overall observation, they have found that the CMS cannot detect a high proportion of vulnerable mini apps with minimal false positive. Vulnerabilities were widespread among various categories, with shopping, lifestyle tools being more suspectable. So now I have to move to the security case studies. Here I have pointed 7 key points in here. So there, the nature of analysis, scope vulnerabilities identification, variable name analysis, categorization of vulnerable variables, illustrative attacks, demonstrative vulnerabilities access, concerning mini-app template generation. So the impact of CMRF attacks are application specific and depended on how the exchange data is used. Conducted case studies to comprehend the impact of CMRF attacks within the WeChat Baidu Mini apps. Uh, the scope of vulnerability identification, a plugin was developed to collect variables names related to cross mini app messages received by vulnerable mini apps. Identify a total of 28,878 mini-apps accessing the sensitive resources which are found susceptible to CMRF attack. Here they demonstrated that the analysis involved in understanding the semantic of the data within vulnerable mini-apps to formulate concrete attacks. Variable name analysis leveraged variable names within the JavaScript-based mini-app code to decipher semantic meanings, identifying potential vulnerabilities. Around 2,412 meaningful variables names were identified and categorized based on their semantic meaning. Illustrative attacks. The top 5 categories of variables names that may involve security concern are payment info, device info, promotion info, order info, and phone number. 5. Demonstrative vulnerability cases. Shopping for free attacks can be launched if a shopping mini does not check the source of payment status information. Devices manipulation attacks can occur if IoT mini apps do not validate the device ID sent in cross mini app channels. Promotion abuse attacks can be carried out by the manipulating coupon information in mini apps. 6. Concerning mini apps template generator. Many vulnerable mini-apps use the same code to receive user phone number. Here are some detailed examples such as shopping for free attack the exploit the lack of source app ID verification, substanding potential threats that can cause huge vulnerabilities for the user. On the other hand, highlighted devices manipulate and promotion abuse attack along with specific mini-apps. Now, moving to the discussion part. In the discussion part, I have pointed out 5 key points: generalization of CMRF attacks, security implications and defense, limitation of future scope, vulnerability detection and mitigation, ethical approach and responsible disclosure. CMRF attacks have been evaluated on WeChat and Baidu, but they are believed to be general and practical in many super apps. Super apps have similar implementation of cross-app communication channels and APIs. CMRF attacks require receiver mini-apps to access sensitive resources which are similar across different platforms. For the security implication and defense, the most effective defense against CMRF attack is to validate the app ID and enforce security checks before consuming the request. Acknowledged that not all developers implement necessary checks, leaving their mini-apps vulnerable to CMRF attacks. They can also attack do not need malware release or circumvention of platform vetting and increasing their practicality. And the limitation and future scope. The study has limitation in recovering all app IDs and only focus on CMRF attacks against the cross mini-app channel. Broader attack possibilities can also be identified that CMRF attacks only scrape the surface of potential cross mini-app channel and suggests that the existence of the other attack vectors might be occurring in the future. Vulnerability detection and mitigation. There could be other attack exploiting the cross mini-app channel, such as collision attack and data leakage. In future, super app vendors can offer mitigation mechanisms such as encrypting the channel to prevent CMRF attack. 5. The ethical approach and responsible disclosure. The researchers followed ethical practices and responsible disclosure by conducting proof of concept attacks on their own accounts and devices. They reported their findings to Tencent and Baidu, who acknowledged and confirmed the attacks and will inform the third-party developers. The researchers have developed CMR scanner and provided technical details in the paper. Here is the sub details like the vendor, the super app like WeChat, Baidu. You can see, uh, and the vendors are Tencent for the WeChat and the Baidu. That's Baidu. The WeChat is using App ID and their app key, sending the request through API. So they are checking like this and the comparison of API implementation for the different apps, super apps. So now moving to the conclusion. In this paper, a novel cross-mini app request attacks was discovered, affecting a significant number of WeChat and Baidu mini apps, with the potential for severe security consequences such as free shopping, promotion abuse, and device manipulation. The vendors have been informed and confirmed the attacks. In the end, I can conclude that the severe vulnerability of a considerable number of mini apps due to CMRF attacks emphasizes the severe security consequences and validates the finding through disclosure to the concerned vendors. Thank you from me. That's all from me. Thank you.